What's going on, everybody? Me. We've got to stop meeting like this. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I'm sick again. When I started this damn podcast, I was sick as well. And yeah, I mean, today I just woke up with body aches and a sore throat and congestion, and I mean, the works, you know? Anyway, I'm your host, John Solis, and this is Introspective Gamer Podcast. And today's date is February 28th, the last day of February. Only 3 more days to go for that Nintendo Switch. And I gotta tell you, I'm gonna warn you, I was gonna do a segment yesterday, but I just kind of got caught up writing about the segment, and it's a long one. It's basically a really deep dive into Zelda game mechanics and how it differs from current open world games that are on the market right now. I'll see if I can get through it. Probably should have got a glass of water. But I also wanted to cover, I mentioned a strange interaction at Target last podcast, and I don't think I'm going to end up talking too much in depth about it. I'll tell you what it is, the shorthand, and just where it went, but I'm not going to be able to get my wife on the podcast this week because she's busy with school and work and stuff like that. But basically, the gist of it was me and my wife were at Target, and we went to the book section to look at children's books with my son. And while we were there, we saw these 2 boys that were probably like 10 years old and this guy that was with them. And the 2 boys were looking at some books, and then the boys end up going around to the next aisle, and me and my son are looking at these children's books, and behind us are like magazines and teen fiction. And then this guy, he tells us like, oh look, sorry about that. You're going to be hearing that a lot, by the way. This guy turns to me and my wife and my son, and it's like, oh, look, that's Iron Man. He's Iron Man because he's got a lot of iron in his blood. And we're like, oh, okay, you know, like, whatever. Obviously, something's a little off, you know. Not in a bad way. It's just, you know. And so we're there, and again, he makes the joke, and we're like, oh, okay. And then he goes around, and he starts talking to the boys. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, he's with his friends or family or whatever. All of a sudden, the boys take off down to a different aisle, and they leave him in the aisle by himself. And then he circles back around to the aisle me and my wife are in. And then he starts talking to us about how he wants to buy this deck or something like that. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and it's got like Blue Eyes White Dragon. I think called it the Kaiba deck. The only reason I even know about Kaiba and Yu-Gi-Oh is because my brother plays it or played it a lot when I was younger. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then he kind of kept making small talk, but me and my wife were like, okay, like, you're kind of in our personal space, dude. So we're like, all right, see you later. And we just walked off. And so we're circling around shopping. And then as we were leaving, we were talking about how, like, man, you know, that guy, I thought he was with those kids. And I was like, yeah, I guess not, you know, whatever. And then I see him walk up to this family, and he starts talking to these women. I go, oh, look, there they are. I go, there's his family that are, like, taking care of him or whatever the hell. And he's showing them something, talking to them, and we're like, whatever. And so then we get in line at the register, and as we're at the register, he happens to come up behind us. He's like, hey, guys, what's going on? We're like, hey, what's up? And he's like, I'm going to get me a soda, and I'm going to get that Kaiba deck after all. And we're like, oh. And it was just a strange coincidence, but probably not. My wife, she gets a little more, she gets nervous when somebody's constantly invading our private space, and just, it seems like he was following us. Because even when he went to talk to those women, he was looking at us. And she was like, let's go to the self-checkout. And he's still, like, talking to us, but we're kind of, like, ignoring him. Like, okay, you know, we get it. And then we went to the self-checkout, and we left. And as we were leaving, my wife was like, okay, like, carry Samson to the car. And that's my son. And so I was like, why? He can walk. And she's like, yeah, but not right now because we got this guy following us. And, I mean, we never looked back to see if he was, but I knew what my wife was implying, you know. Let's just, if he is following us, like, let's just get in the car. And so we hurried to the car, not like running, but not like from a zombie attack or some shit. And so we got to the car and we left. And as we were leaving, I was like, I thought he was with those boys. And my wife was like, me too. But apparently he scared them off. And then I was like, I thought he was with those women he was talking to. And she was like, I didn't see them. I go, yeah, he went to talk to these people. I thought they were his family. And apparently not, because then he's buying his soda and shit by himself. And so then we just kind of like, wow, that was weird. And yeah, it was strange that he kind of kept lingering around us. And so there was another point we saw him. I didn't mention it, but we intersected paths later in the store. And so then I kind of just had this thought in my head of like, it's crazy, right? Like people that are like him, that are a little off or special or slow, or I guess if you're mean, retarded or whatever, like the people who just don't have like a mental capacity, like the average person, children and really old people, how they're other people's problem. And I was just telling my wife, that's strange, right? How the only people that are willing to put up with them, again, children, special, I really don't know the politically correct term, but it's just because what the point of what I'm trying to get at, even with my phrasing, is the only people that are willing to put up with / take care of them are their family. And everyone else kind of does what me and my wife did, where we keep them at a distance or interact with them to a point, and then it's like, all right, where's your caretaker? Again, similar to a child. If like a child was talking to you, or a really old lady was talking to you, after a while it's like, for the child, you're like, don't you have parents? And for the old people, it's like, are you with like a group or a nursing home? And again, with this guy, it's like, where's your family that takes care of you? It kind of turned into a conversation of how, you know, he might have had the capacity, the mental capacity of like a 10 or 14-year-old, which is old enough to get by on your own, but he might not have the social skills to understand when he's invading people's personal space, or when people are uncomfortable, you know, social visual cues and stuff like that. And we were just talking about how society treats them, how society treated them in the past, and how even now I think we don't have a proper way to accept them into our life and culture. And it's not just them, it's kind of anybody. Like I said, I think children and old people also are in this category. I think blind people, I think deaf people. We make accommodations around them, and we'll have facilities built specifically for them, but I don't think we actually give a shit about assimilating them into our society, which is why we throw children in daycare, throw old people in nursing homes, and put these people under special care with house nurses. And again, blind people are like, oh, you got stuff to do, it's just all in Braille, or like, you can use this ATM, you just gotta fucking find it, and then when you get there, the buttons and directions are in Braille. Same thing with deaf people. You can see where you're going, but when you want to hear it, you know, tough shit, or use this TTY communicator, whatever, you know, like, we kind of just divulged into that kind of territory of how society really doesn't accept outsiders. And it was a very interesting conversation. Again, I'm probably butchering it. Yeah, probably like, oh, fuck this guy. He hates special people and stuff. That's not what I'm implying at all. It was just really fascinating. I wish my wife could have helped me not talk myself into a hole like I probably did. And so that was the first topic. I just wanted to get it out of the way because, I mean, we're probably going to do like a 20-minute segment on that. But, oh, shit. Apparently I did like a 7-minute segment. All right, the next topic. For today specifically, I just wanted to mention the Nintendo Direct that they did earlier, and that there was a lot of great stuff in there. Over 60 indie games were confirmed in an infographic they put out there, and then since then more people have been coming out. I just wanted to shout out a couple of ones I thought were neat. There was Graceful Explosion Machine, which is a shmup that takes place with like geometric shapes that are very flat and 2D, kind of like oh my god, I can't remember the day. I was about to say it too, the Xbox game Geometry Wars, but instead of psychedelic neon, just think of very flat 2D looking shapes on like white paper. It looks really neat. And then Shakedown Hawaii, which is a spiritual sequel to Retro City Rampage. That was a really fun game. Mr. Shifty is something that looks really interesting. I want to check it out. I'm hoping some of these have demos. I don't think they will, but they really should. And also, a lot of these are on PC or PS4 already. Some of them aren't. Some of them are going to be exclusive. None of the ones I'm saying are exclusive to the Switch. And then Enter the Gungeon. I've heard about it on PS4 and PC, and I've always wanted to check it out. But yeah, I mean, I just want to give a shout out to those. I hope you guys checked it out. If not, go ahead and go to Nintendo.com and scroll to the very bottom left. There's going to be a section called Announcements, and there they're going to be talking about what the just different announcements that the media outlets will get a hold of and reprint. Like I mentioned in my first podcast, go straight to the source instead of getting secondhand information. But yeah, it's really neat stuff. Right. Sorry if it's too obvious too. I took a took a quick break because my throat was killing me. Got me a cough drop and some water. Anyway, on with the show. The next topic. I'm really sorry that I keep bringing up spoilers in relation to Zelda and stuff. I think it's just fascinating. I'm fascinated by spoiler culture and how it's kind of infested our real societal culture, and just everybody's on high alert and walking on eggshells over, frankly, just dumb stuff. I mean, there's stories. I mean, there's a million of them. Anyway, I'm not going to go over my rant about spoilers. But what I will talk about is how in Breath of the Wild, it's a perfect example of like a relative spoiler. And what I remember that is that it's such an open world, and it sounds like people can tackle it however they want. So some people might think Ganon's castle is a spoiler. And so you can avoid that until you're ready to get to Ganon's castle. But you have the ability in the first 15-30 minutes of the game to run straight to Ganon's castle, which means, or it's not Ganon's castle, it's Zelda's castle, but Calamity Ganon. And so if I run there in the first 15 minutes and post a video of that, and somebody, you know, flames me of like, oh, you fucking asshole, you spoiled the game, it's like, no, I didn't, because relative to the time that I've been playing, this is early game stuff. Obviously to them, they're like, no, that's end game stuff, you just purposely went there to spoil it. To me, that's a subjective value of a subjective judgment of what happened. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean by relative spoiler. Relative to my playstyle versus yours, his, hers, theirs. We're all gonna play the game differently. So if anybody's doing a let's play and you see something you don't like, even if they say, you know, no spoilers, or we're gonna try to do it spoiler free, there's no guarantee of that, because there's no telling what you think is a spoiler. Interestingly enough, I think it's somebody apparently got the game early, or a code of the game early, and hacked it and released all these images of enemies and weapons in the game, which I quickly perused through because I'm a curious guy, and stuff looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it. And so we'll only see how that works out. The next topic, okay, this next topic, I'm not gonna lie, it's a rant, and it's only because I keep running into people at my place of work that play games but are not gamers. And I know I've also mentioned like, oh, gamer is just a label and everybody's a gamer if you play games, and that's true. But I guess what I mean about these people that piss me off is that they don't take the time to respect the art or the industry, which again is like, hey, you better respect my hobby. That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me give you the example that bothers me, as well as another one. But basically, okay, apparently in my topic I generalize what happened, but very specifically, no, I'm gonna keep it general, because in case the person I work with happens to listen, which they never will, but if they do, I was talking about the Switch, and this person was like, oh, it's that system that connects to cell phones. And I was like, no, it's not. They're like, yeah, you can connect to your cell phone and play like a Mario game and a Mario Kart game, and you know, the one with you can take it off, the two side controllers. I was like, yeah, I mean, it can, because of the online functionality, you have to use a phone app. And then she just says, oh, it's gonna fail because their online's gonna fail. And I was just like, what? Like, number one, you didn't even know what you were talking about. Like, what the fuck? Where'd you get this information about this phone? And number two, you're making a judgment call on something that hasn't been tested yet or proven. It's not like a quantifiable thing that we know from past events. Like, even people on the internet, when they were saying, oh, Nintendo's online has been shitty. Yeah, it has been, but we don't know what this is. Like, we need to give it a fair shake. And what bothered me about this interaction was that, like I'm saying, this person didn't even know what the Switch was, but still continued to go headstrong into the conversation, like if he was right, and that I was the one who didn't know, like, yeah, that's what I read, that's what it is. And it's like, okay, I mean, If you're right, you're right. I really don't know what you want me to say. I mean, except to shake my head. Oh, yep, that's the system. And then another thing got me mad was another time a different worker. I was talking about how the Switch, the lineup looks pretty decent, but hopefully third parties will bring their games over. And I mentioned like, Borderlands 2. I mean, if they brought it to the Vita, I don't see why they couldn't throw it on the Switch. But I mentioned, different little M-rated or T-rated games, and this person's like, that'll never happen. Nintendo only does kiddie games. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's like saying HP only does kiddie games. Lenovo only does architectural drafting, architectural drafting on 3D software. And Dell only does, I don't know, voice over internet relay chat or whatever. It's one of those things that I was like, how the hell? Like, what are you talking about? Like, Nintendo only does kiddie games. They wouldn't allow M-rated or T-rated games on their system. Like, it's these kind of comments that I'm just like, and these people, some of them have played, like, they brag about it. Like, they played over 300 or 400 hours in, like, Diablo for the Xbox or in Destiny. And it's like, you play that long and you don't know shit about what you're actually playing. Like, it just blows my mind. And that, again, like I said, this is a rant. I don't really usually do rants, but obviously you can tell from my inflection and voice tone that I actually do them quite often because I'm very skilled at fucking yelling and getting frustrated. Let me get some water. Cool down the throat. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Anyway, to get all that petty stuff out of the way, I want to get into the main topic. It started off as topic number 5, and in order to break it down into paragraphs, I ended up making each new paragraph a new topic. So it's pretty long, but stick with me, and this is the deep dive into Zelda game mechanics. But it's basically how I think Zelda, from different things I've seen and heard from like the Edge review that leaked, and just how people have been mentioning how it's such a dynamic, interesting game, and some people are even saying it's almost in a league of its own. I wanted to talk about that specific thing, and what I want to start with is how it's a hard to define open world game because it seems to be physics based, and with any physics simulator, there's randomization in how the objects interact with each other. Sorry about that, guys. Choking. And so yeah, basically, like any physics simulator, there's a lot of randomization in how objects interact with each other. Whether it's like a game where you're guiding liquid through an obstacle course, or you're trying to balance objects, or you're trying to, whatever, like Octodad, where it's physics based and there's a bit of randomness that goes with how things interact with each other, the world, the environment. And this is very different from current other open world games because they rely on artificial intelligence to create unreplicatable events. What I mean by that is, in Zelda, if you chop down a tree, depending on how you chop it, you know what direction it's going to fall in, but depending on why you're chopping it, it might knock down another tree domino effect style, or get caught in a tree, or it might squash an enemy. In other games, you can't chop down trees. You can only shoot the enemy with an arrow or with a gun or with a chop them with an axe. And what makes it different every time you do it, like the Zelda thing, when you chop a tree down, what makes it different is the physics. Every time you chop that tree down, you don't know where it's going to go next because it's physics driven, meaning physics are taking over at that point. You're not in control. The world's its own thing. In these other games, AI is in control. So when you draw that bow, depending on if the enemy has seen you or not, they will react to what you're doing differently. Whether it's a long distance weapon, they might do a sidestep to dodge the arrow or gun, or they might charge you if you have a melee weapon. And that's what creates things that are unique experiences. But they're not completely unique because video games don't use state-of-the-art AI, like stuff that we're using for robots to tell whether you're thirsty, and like, these really advanced robotics that people are experimenting with artificial intelligence. We're not getting there. Machine learning and all that stuff, that's not in our games right now. So they're almost destined to repeat actions because there's only so many variables that they have to take into account. What I mean by that is, yes, he dodges, he or she will sidestep you if you have a gun pointed at them, but that's all that they know what to do when the AI senses that you're aiming a long distance weapon at them. They're not going to grab a rock and try to shield their face from the bullet. They're not going to hide behind a tree. They might if there's a tree in the way. It depends. So that's what I'm saying. Your character, as the character you're controlling, can only do a certain set amount of actions. As long as the AI accounts for all of those sets of actions, they're covered. Then, depending on how in-depth they go, the developers, the artificial intelligence has to take into account other AI bots around it, whether they're other enemies or NPCs. And then any AI or the environment that it's in has to take that into account. Again, like I'm saying, whether there's a ledge, a tree, a cliff, a rock, the AI takes all of this into account. But there is a finite number of things it has to take into account, which means if you get a bad guy stuck between a tree and a rock and you're pointing a gun at him, he might do a specific task. I can guarantee you if you get a different enemy in between that same rock and tree and aim a gun at him, you're going to be able to replicate the exact same actions that the previous AI enemy did. And again, that's no slight on like, oh, well, that's how you know it's a shittier game. It's just like I'm saying, that's the limit of artificial intelligence in current games and in current open world games. And so some examples is like Skyrim, The Witcher, and Horizon Zero Dawn fall into this category. And because they rely so heavily on the artificial intelligence, their mission structures and the way that they pad out their story and stuff is mission based. Meaning when you are exploring the world, you're really not going to explore the world unless there's a mission to do it. There's no reason for you to look. You can look at mountaintops and take pictures of them in photo mode or whatever, and you can climb to the top of a mountain through a trail. You're not going to be able to actually climb it because they didn't program the game that way. If a mission tells you you have to get to the other side of this ocean, then you will look to see how to get to the other side. But if the game doesn't tell you to, you're not going to try it. And it's because of the AI-driven gameplay. Now, again, this isn't bad by any means. Sorry, I'm going to drink some water. This isn't bad. These games obviously are awesome, and they thrive on the exploration of the missions and how you get new gear and loot every time you complete a mission. They're very good. But that's kind of where I also come in to say that Zelda, from the sounds of it, is in a league of its own. Almost, not entirely. Because I also want to point out that Grand Theft Auto, another very popular open world game, uses physics as well. It incorporates it into its world. It has the mission structure, but it also takes into account physics. Whether it's crashing into a car, or people reacting to you with a gun, or... You see, I have not played a Grand Theft Auto, so I'm probably not the best judge of how to describe this. But what I am using as evidence is that I've seen some YouTube videos where people show cars stacked like dominoes, or people crash buses into a bunch of people, or planes onto a bunch of buses. And they're basically domino effect type videos, or Rube Goldberg apparatuses, if you will. But obviously this is only on PC and only after extensive modding. And so it's also not something that happens on a day-to-day basis in Grand Theft Auto, but the fact that its system is built so that you can cause chain reactions using the dynamics and physics of the objects themselves versus relying on canned animations or artificial intelligence, that shows that they're kind of doing a mix. Now again, the distinction is Grand Theft Auto takes place in a city, so in order for Grand Theft Auto to truly be open and physics-based, all of its buildings would have to be destructible, and all of their buildings would have to be something you could enter. Every single floor, every single building. Now that's a daunting task. There's a reason why nobody's done that yet. Again, not knocking anything on Grand Theft Auto or saying it's incomplete or a bad game. But this is where Zelda, I think, finds its own niche of being a game that nobody's ever felt before in a long time, if at all. And it's because its clear focus is on making the environment a main character as well as the story and structure. The way I wrote it in my notes is the player is playing against the game, not necessarily playing with it. Again, against the game, not with it. And there's a lot of similarities with the NES Zelda. And having played that I just want to say that if you haven't played the NES Zelda, you should give it a shot. And if you don't like it, just be prepared to not like Breath of the Wild, because they don't tell you anything on what to do in that game. And I used the guide because I had tried it before when I was younger in middle school, and I just quit on it. And so when I tried again in high school, I was like, I'm going to use the guide because I don't want to quit. I want to beat this. And even with the guide, it was still very satisfying to accomplish and beat the game. If anything, the guide only took away like where to burn the bushes and stuff like that. Oh yeah, but I also want to take a, let me see, sorry, to take a quick aside real quick to get a little meta. I also heard on some previews that people say that it brings a sense of childlike discovery and wonder when you're exploring the game, and I think that discovery and wonder plays into effect. And so the reason I go a little meta, meta, is because when you're a child and you're playing and stuff, the last thing on your mind is life. And I don't mean being an adult with a job and stuff. I mean life. Like, you think you're going to live forever, and it's not true. The only time you question mortality as a child is when you're faced with something mortal. Whether you're playing in the forest or in your backyard and you fall too hard and you pop your little skull, or your hand gets torn and your fingers bleeding. You do not question that anything can or would hurt you until something does. And obviously, I mean, I could go on about mortality and life and death and stuff like that, but I'm going to digress to go back to the video game of Zelda. And in the NES, and as well as the Breath of the Wild, the game throws you, the main character Link, into an unknown environment and tells you to figure out what to do. And this is where the sense of wonder and discovery starts. The difference in these games is that there's very little that's limiting what you can actually explore in the game. You can, in fact, explore anywhere. The only limit is your imagination. And yes, that's something I'm reading from my notes. And again, yes, there are invisible walls, because you can't just, again, they run to the same wall that GTA does with their destructible buildings and things. But what I mean is, when you look at a mountain and you're like, that's an enormous fucking mountain, you can, in this game, from the looks of it, say, I want to see if I can climb it. And more than likely, you can climb it. Even if you need to eat something along the way to get your stamina gauge up, you can climb it. And there's a reason to climb it. And it's not an objective completely. It's, I want to see if I can do it. It's you. You are the driving force behind whether you're going to want to do something or not want to do something. And that's where the wonder and discovery comes into play. Because, I mean, obviously there's some incentive. They have collectibles like shrines and stuff like that. But again, it's not crazy like some of the other current games are, where you're starting to enter Donkey Kong 64 territory in terms of collectibles. I mean, the fact that they want you to get on 17 different towers in one area just so you can do like Eagle Vision in Assassin's Creed is like, alright, come on. Just fill in the map as I walk through it, you know, damn it. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is the game exploration and stuff like that is driven by your own curiosity and whether you want to fill out your shrines or your hearts. And again, that's totally subjective and up to you to do. Now, the reason I even brought up that whole collectible thing in other games is because contrast that to Zelda, where in theory we can cut down all the trees that get in our way. Oh, okay, I see. Sorry guys, I'm not reading my notes well enough. But basically, just like I mentioned earlier, in other open world games currently, there's an objective that's telling you to get somewhere, and there's kind of only a few ways to get to there. And those are the tricks they use to make you feel like there's multiple ways to tackle one situation. There's actually only like 3 or 4, and it's because you're bound by the game mechanics and AI. But in Zelda, if you want to get somewhere, you can, in theory, cut down all the trees that are in your way and travel over a mountain. You don't have to go around it because the game didn't program you to climb. This game wants you to basically be Spider-Man. And you can get there however you want. There's a reason they give you that glider, and it's because they know you're going to be on higher altitudes a lot of the time. And instead of having to figure a way down, they thought it was probably easier to just glide down or drop down without dying. Let me see. Yeah, and so again, in my notes, I just kind of say how this sense of exploration is very organic and it's very natural. It's kind of why you feel like this feels right, because it doesn't feel forced, and that's the beauty of Zelda and stuff like that. Okay, so apparently I wrote that I'm gonna stop myself because I'm going for a while, but I really want to let myself go. Yeah, it's okay. Let me just say this instead of read it. But yeah, I just really wanted to let myself go off, really deep dive into a topic, because this is kind of what I want Introspective Gamer to be, is a very deep introspective look at games, the way we play them, the philosophy behind the games, the design of how a game is played, supposed to be played, how it could and should be played, all these different things, just because I think it's fascinating. Like I said, I think games are an art form, but not a visual art form. It's not something that you can just say, oh yeah, like Flower and Journey are artistic games because they look pretty. It's like, no, that's not what art's about. Art is a very emotional, raw, like primal type of feeling you get from interacting with art. Whether it's looking at a sculpture or playing a video game, there's a guttural feeling that you get from art. And that's why I want to talk about the introspective nature of video games and just take a deep dive into them. I also just want, before I close out this segment, this is one segment, by the way. I am going to probably do another video or two because there's going to be some hardware reviews coming up tomorrow on the 29th. I mean, on March 1st. But I also just wanted to point out that, to my knowledge, this is kind of exactly why Nintendo is fascinating to me and why I hold them to a high standard and why I look up to them a lot. And it's because Nintendo's the only company that consistently does this. They take something that is the norm, or that we keep doing, and they ask themselves, how can we innovate on this idea? Not change it for the sake of change, but change it so that it's better. Change it so that it's not the same, so that we don't always have to keep doing this. Now, I mean, it's for this reason also that I don't understand why so many people rag on them for being dumb or ignorant or stubborn. I mean, I totally understand how it's frustrating when somebody's not moving with the industry. But I think because they take their time to make decisions, it's exactly why they're able to innovate, because they take their time. If everybody's just rushing to get to the next point, we're never going to get to the next level. There's a very big difference from going to where we need to be and where we want to be. But I will close this segment out with those final words, and I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive. And if you didn't, well, don't worry. I won't do them too often, but I probably will. Now that I've done it, I think I really like it. I mean, hopefully I'm not so sick in the next couple of podcasts, but I will see you guys on the other side. Take care. Bye. Good evening, everybody. Although you wouldn't know it's evening. But this is Thursday, March 2nd. And, yeah. I feel a little better than what I did in the past video. I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't edited to fix it. But I'm sorry if I'm drinking a lot of water or making a lot of noises. I was pretty sick. My throat was pretty bad. Now I probably still sound a little nasally. My cough's not as crazy as long as I'm distracted. So hopefully me talking will help me. So anyway, to get into this topics of today, well, I mean, midnight launch. Right now it's 8:02 where I'm at. So I'm a ways off, but I'm also not going to stay up for launch. I got to go to work. But yeah, sorry. But yeah, the Switch is coming out tomorrow/tonight. Some people are already getting it. Some people got theirs early in the mail. And then, of course, Australians are already getting in on the action because they're way ahead of time. Oh, no. Here we go again. Me and my coughs. But yeah, today's topics, I mean, it's just going to run down well, let's just get started. The first topic is the Xbox Game Pass, which Microsoft announced actually on the 28th or around there. I just didn't get to it because I was really into my deep dive of Zelda game design. And I am super excited for this. This is what I think everybody should be doing. I think I mentioned it in a podcast a while back about EA Access, how you pay $30 a year and you can access this pool of titles kind of for free, and how I was like, yeah, man, if everybody did this, or if Nintendo did this, the most I'd pay is like $100 a year between a couple different companies to get access to a lot of video games. And that's only because I'm mostly a single player gamer. that might change right now with the Switch and my son getting older. He seems to be pretty enthusiastic about it. Sorry. And so we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I mean, this is enticing to me because now I don't have to spend a lot of money in comparison to like trying out 6 games at new price versus paying $10 a month, and in that 1 month trying 6 different games out. Because that too, I don't know if any of y'all have noticed, but they don't do demos like they used to. Like in the 360 days, I feel like every game had a demo or a trial version. And now it's either like a free-to-play game, that's the only way you can play a game without paying anything, or before you pay something, or you just have to pay it, buy it. You know, sometimes they'll release demo versions, but for the most part, games don't do demos anymore. And so this is just awesome. It's basically like Netflix for games. I'm really excited for it. And I honestly, when this comes around, I'm not gonna, my Xbox Live subscription is gonna be up on the 18th of this month. So when that runs out, that runs out. But when this starts up in April or May, even though I'll be on the Switch train still, I'm probably gonna kick this up so that I can try out some of those games. Because right now too, for some reason, I don't know why I did it, I started playing Sleeping Dogs, which is a Games for Gold, like 2 or 3 months ago. And I'm really enjoying that game, but I'm also trying not to get burned out too much because I know when I get the Switch, I'm going to be playing that. Playing Zelda, so that's a different type of open world game, but it's still an open world game, and I don't want to get burned out too much, even though they're very different tones and stuff like that. And again, I write here that I hope Switch does something like this, and I think Switch could even do a better job of it because of their cheap online. Even Microsoft, if they wanted to, they charge $30 or $40 for their internet, like full price. Like right now it's $60, and yeah, we can all get our Xbox Live subscriptions somewhere for $40 or $45. But imagine if they were $40 and you could get them for like $30 online, and then you're paying like $10 or if you paid $50 a month to get online gaming and a bunch of Netflix pool of games every month. I mean, that would be pretty sweet. Again, I think you have to offset it with cheaper online. But whether Microsoft will do that, we know Switch, at least the rumors are pointing that the Switch's online is going to be pretty cheap. At least under $30 or under $40. So we'll see what happens with that. Oh, and at this point, this was yesterday. I was supposed to do it yesterday, but this topic, number 2, is for Switch hardware reviews, how they're bugging me. And it's only because there's no none of them have the day one update, so I kind of don't understand the point of it. And some reviewers like Game Explain and stuff like that, or Go Nintendo, they point that out, but it's still one of those things. For some reason, they went through the motions of giving their impressions, but it sounded like the same things they said a couple of days prior. So it was one of those things where if you didn't want to do it, you should have just waited instead of jumping on the bandwagon because everybody else is doing it. And then you have things like IGN that give it like a 6.7, quote unquote, if they had to give it a score now. It's like, well, you didn't have to. And again, even with the day one update, it still might be a 6.8, 6.9. I don't care about the score. It's just one of those things that giving hardware numbers is very weird because I think hardware is only as strong as its software. And you can't build up software unless, like, it's one of those things. I think you should give hardware a judgment after a couple of months or even a year, because then, like, we could know, well, yeah, after 2 months, the Joy-Cons give out or the joysticks break, or, I mean, I've lost my kickstand for my Switch. You know, like, there's real problems that we'll have all run into at that point as consumers and stuff, whether it's a firmware problem or something, but I mean, before you even have a patch, before anybody else has given it thorough testing, it's really strange that they made them do hardware review. Or again, nobody made them. They said you could, and they all did it. And I don't understand why. Number 3. Oh, yeah. Sorry about the coughing. The left Joy-Con desyncing issue. I don't know if you've heard about this. Y'all should have, but if not that y'all should have, but it's been pretty out there. Everybody mentions it at some point. But yeah, basically the left Joy-Con, it happens to both, but the left is worse, and it has to do with it desyncs, they say, or it loses connection somehow when it's obstructed, or people could be playing with the grip and that it'll desync, like Link will keep moving, or he's just not moving at all, or he just, and again, it's only because at this point they only have Zelda Breath of the Wild to test it on. So maybe with more games, even without more games, they would go to the calibration menu and move the left Joy-Con's control stick, and they tested it from different distances and with different things obstructing it. And yeah, the left one is just really bad, they say. What's interesting for me is that a lot of people seem to think that a firmware update will fix this, and the reason sorry, I find that interesting is because I see this as more of a hardware issue rather than a software issue. And let me explain. So different people have done heat signature video and photos of the Switch, and it's very obvious looking at it forward, like the screen is facing you, and on the left is the left Joy-Con, the right is the right Joy-Con. With the screen facing you under a thermal camera, the battery is on the right side of the main screen, the system itself, and the heating fan, the ventilation, is on the top. So you're going to see this L-shaped power heat signature on the right side of the console. And so to me, again, maybe I'm just crazy, but if the battery is on the right side, it would only make sense that the right Joy-Con is getting a nice charge from that battery because the connectors are closer. Whereas, again, this is where it gets iffy in my mind, because the connectors are further to the left, and it seems like a lot of the heat is focused on the right side. The left Joy-Con might not actually be getting a decent charge from the battery, and it's only saying that it's charged because, in theory, both should be synchronized the way they charge. No one's ever, like, I think that's one test that I've never seen. No one's ever burned the hell out of one Joy-Con and let the other one stay fully charged while one dies. In which case, if you connected them, would they charge at the same rate, or are they just going to pretend that they played catch-up with each other? So to me, the left Joy-Con just isn't getting the same juice as the other one. And if that's the case, I'm not sure a software update can fix that, because then it's a hardware issue. Again, I mean, if we're comparing this to like an Android phone or something like that, because it has Android software, or not Android, ARM architecture, which is what mobile phones are working with. If it has that, I've seen firmware updates be better at battery management, but it's not necessarily for specific parts. It's literally like cutting out like when it asks to use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth so that it lets the battery last longer, or when you're not using your phone, the screen or the system went through a deeper sleep mode. That really doesn't affect how and where the battery sends the energy. So in this case, I really don't believe that a firmware update is going to fix anything. But some people say that the day one patch already has, others disagree. Who knows? That's just my 2 cents on where that might be headed. Oh boy. And yeah, so number 4 I have is the headline, pre-order baby mama drama straight from the Bahamas, let me tell you. And all of that BS is literally me saying that I have been on an emotional roller coaster of my pre-orders. So I pre-ordered from Target, and it said that there was an estimated arrival between the 6th and the 9th, which I was fine with, because it's like, whatever, I'll get it when I get it. But I really wanted to do an unboxing video with my son and start a video series. And it's really no big deal too. That'll happen when it happens. But I'm on these forums, and a lot of people from Best Buy and Amazon and sorry, Best Buy, Amazon, and Target and stuff, they're already saying, oh, my order updated. They say it's going to ship soon, or it's processing, the status changed. And my Target one hasn't moved at all. And then even some people from Target were like, oh, my order changed. And I was like, oh, mine hasn't. And so I was like, you know what? Like, that's not fair, because I think Amazon was upgrading people's orders so they could get it on day one, even though they didn't pay for expedited shipping. And so I was getting, basically jealous of, like, this is bullshit. If all these other people, even Best Buy, are starting to ship systems in the middle of the week, why hasn't Target done anything? And so I had decided, if Target doesn't do shit by the 1st, that's it. I'm gonna just, on the 3rd, I'm gonna come home from work in the morning, and even though I'm gonna be sleepy, down a bunch of coffees, me and my son are gonna go to Best Buy or Target. There's a shopping center around me that has a bunch around, like a Best Buy, Target, and Walmart, all next to each other. And I'm going to just run through all of them right when they open and grab me a Switch and cancel my Target. Or I'm not going to cancel it. I'm going to get my Target order in and return it for the money. And it was just one of those things. I was all in a rage. And then, basically my dad and my wife were just like, oh, don't worry about it. And yeah, it's one of those things. When you're near the internet, you get infected by it, Chingao. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. Let me just calm down. And so I calmed down, and I'm fine. And today, on the 2nd, they sent me a tracking number, so they're going to ship it. I've already made peace with the fact that I'm going to get it late. But apparently they're shipping it from somewhere in Dallas. And I'm down south of Texas a little bit. And I just realized, there's a really good chance that we're in the same state, that I could get it by tomorrow. And I got an email saying that, yes, I'm going to get it tomorrow. But I also got a contradicting notice from Target saying that the earliest I'm going to get it is now on Monday, the 6th. Because there's like 3 business days that they can get it to me. So I'm really hoping it comes tomorrow. I'm super psyched. But even if I don't, that'll give me a weekend to just play some more Sleeping Dogs and chill out and do something else, But, yeah, I really hope it comes tomorrow. I'm really excited. I hope it comes tomorrow. But if it doesn't, yes, I'm going to be pissed. Okay, let me calm down because I'm getting too hype on this mic. I can see the levels. Just so you know, I'm also walking away from the microphone the louder I get. So if I'm really loud, I'm really sorry. I'm just getting too hype. Okay, I'm walking closer to the mic now, guys. Yes, I record this standing, not on a chair. Anyway, the 5th topic is that I wanted to kind of bring it back to the Zelda front and how... it's really funny because, Zelda, the review embargo was released today, and so there's a lot of good reviews coming out, and this thing is scoring perfect 10s everywhere. Maybe a 98 out of 100 or 9.5 out of 10 here and there. But this thing is off the charts amazing, apparently. Something that I find interesting is that I think it's weird how nobody's kind of mentioning the intrinsic value that the system brings along with the game. And what I mean by that is everyone talks about how great the world is and how big the world is, and how you always want to keep exploring, but nobody brings up that the Switch is the system that enables you to do that. On the Wii U, if you want to keep playing, but you got to go to work or you got to meet somebody, you got to leave the system there, and it's always in the back of your head, oh, when I get home, I'm going to play. And again, that's a reality for a lot of people, but I think for most people, even some of the people who reviewed the game, it was really cool that they could take the system home with them and play it on their bed and play it on the couch, play it in the morning while they eat breakfast or something. Like, these people played this game a lot more than they realized, and they were able to probably do a more decent review because they were able to fit more game time into it because of the handheld option that the Switch allows you to do, the convertible option of taking it from the TV to your pocket, like on the go. I think that adds value to it. I don't think that if this was a Wii U game or if this was a more traditional Switch console where it's stuck to the TV, I don't know if it would have scored so high. And not saying it wouldn't have been a perfect 10, because again, like I explained earlier, I think the reliance on physics and making the world feel organic and natural, I think that's what makes it a powerful game compared to what we've been getting in the past generation. But it still doesn't change the fact that I really believe that the handheld aspect of the Switch bumped that score up a bit. But if people are aware of it or not, I don't know. But it's a little theory I would like to believe. But anyway, guys, that will do it for me this week. It is the end of my week, and I'm sorry I ran really long. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death on my 25-minute Zelda, I don't know what you call it, evaluation or study in the beginning. And I really hope you guys value. That's up to you to decide. I can't tell you whether you should value my opinions or not. But I hope you find something of interest when you listen to this. And if you came here because I threw it in your face on social media, like a tweet or something, or on a forum, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to the end. And I will hope to see you guys next week. And I'm going to go ahead and let myself go off the cliff more often so I can talk about more things. Because there's a whole lot of things to talk about than just games. But alrighty, guys, until then, I will see y'all next week. Alright, pre-recorded me. After this music, take me out. Thank you for listening. If you guys have any comments or questions, you can reach me at Unsaluted on Twitter. And don't forget, you can find these episodes on iTunes, Google Music, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And again, just thank you for listening. I will catch you guys and gals next week. Bye-bye.